All right, since everything is set up now in our server, I actually accidentally just signed up, but let's go ahead and sign back in. So we're going to use SSH, gave that, got the IP address here, and we're passwordless now, so I don't have to put in a password. Whoops. You want to make sure you spell SSH correctly. There we go. Let's bring this up. So remember, I'm now doing all my work on the cloud server. I'm not doing anything on the client machine. If I were on my client machine, it would say Gabriel at DevOps, all right? Or whatever host name you gave it. Here's my host name. It's my cloud server. That's who I am. I've created my user. So now let's actually move away from these two first components. These are essentially done. These two objectives are complete. Now we're just going to be going on with our Python web page. So a couple things that we need to install first. All right. Here we're just going to set up the installations that we need. And essentially, we're just going to be grabbing our packages, all right, which I already got installed on my machine. We're also going to want to install the virtualization component in Python, all right? And I'll get into a moment in a description for what that means, but essentially when we're doing virtualization in Python, we're able to set up a Python environment so that it doesn't interfere with our global environment variables. So essentially everything that we do within this project is going to be exclusively for this Python project that we're working on. So let's go ahead and make I already have a Flask app on there, but I'm just going to remove this. Oh, there we go. Clean slate now. So let's go ahead and make a directory. And we're going to call this my project. Okay. So there we have my project. All right. Probably going to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So we have my project. Oh, probably want to keep my notes here just on the side, just in case. All right. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into my project. So let's change the directory to my project. And within my project, we're going to go ahead and create a virtual environment for our Python project. So I'm just going to do Python 3 dash virtual environment. And I'm going to I'm going to make it a hidden file. Oops. I want to make sure you put it correctly. We're going to want to make sure we have the M flag. So Python 3-m venv. And remember the .venv is going to make it a hidden file. So if we do an ls, we're not going to see it. If we do a list long, there we see our hidden file right there. Clean that up. And in order for me to work in my virtual environment, so I'm exclusively in this Python environment, I'm just going to do source, my project. So, oops, I'm already in my project. So I'm just going to do source dot slash dot venv slash bin activate. All right, so now you can see that I've essentially initialized my virtual environment in Python inside of my cloud server. So that way, everything that I do for my project, whatever things I install are exclusively for this project itself. So I'm just going to do an installation here for a package, and we're using pip, which is a package manager in Python. All right. We're also going to install gunicorn and Flask as well too. So let's do pip install gunicorn and Flask. And if you're wondering at this point what any of these things are, well, gunicorn essentially is just the ability to be able to have some sort of web server or web server gateway to interface with a Linux system. All right. And Flask itself is a very um, lightweight application framework for Python. So it's going to allow us essentially to be able to use Python to be able to make a web-based application. And in this case, it's going to be a very, very simple application, nothing too crazy. So we have our packages set up. I don't think we have to do anything else here. But what we will do now is let's go ahead and create our first Python file. All right, so I'm going to do nano, and we're going to call it my project.py, just following along what's on the DigitalOcean instructions here. And they already have it pre-configured. All right, so the code's already written for us. We can go ahead and just paste it for what it is, and um, we can also kind of modify this if we want. So, rather than just say hello there, we can say hello world, right? Maybe give it a little bit of space there. There we go. And just to kind of break down what's happening, essentially, this snippet of code here is essentially what's going to allow us to be able to have a web page that's just going to say hello world. And the way this works is that here we're establishing that this is the Flask module. All right. We're establishing our main variable, if you will. Then we're routing everything kind of the way you would route things like with the HTTPS, or essentially a protocol for saying, hey, here's the path, or here's the directory path that we're working in. And then the last and probably most important part is that we're essentially pointing it to the IP address of not just the local host, but any IP address for my server itself. So that way, when I open up a web browser, I'll be able to view it. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's just check our work. Okay, so that looks good. Now we're going to have to update our uncomplicated firewall. So we're going to do sudo ufw, and we're going to allow port 5000. All right. And let's test our application now. Okay, looks good. So we can actually go to this IP address at port 5000, and notice it's not HTTPS, it's just HTTP. But oops, what happened there? Let's try that again. Oh, all right. So while you're doing this, you may run into this where the port's actually being used by something else, which actually I believe we should be able to view it, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go ahead and grab our. Actually, I don't think it's going to run at all because I closed the session, but I think there's a process that's already identifying it. So if you do run into this, it's very easy how to fix this. We essentially just have to kill the process. So what we're going to want to do is let's identify what's running on port 5000. All right. And here we can see that we do have something running currently, the PID. So let's go ahead and kill that PID. I know it sounds very brutal. In fact, if we really want to kill it, we can do kill -9, and we're going to kill 5059. All right. So now if we were to try to run our Python project again, now it's actually working. Okay. So I would expect actually for this to load, and sure enough, there we go. So now we go into our web browser. I can open my phone. I can open up another device. It doesn't matter. I'm able to see my message. Here's my web page. Fantastic. The reason why it stopped is because if I press Control C, it completely ends. Okay, so now if I try running it again, I should be getting an error unless the catch caught this or something like that. But you can see it's kind of stuck there. So yeah, there we go. As expected, not working. But if I want to run it again, I can do this. I can run the Python file again, and it's perfect. It's great. So now anyone around the world can go to 146.190.160.151. Port 5000, and they're able to see hello world on there. All right. And let's just go ahead and stop that.